Good morning. Are you well? Are you happy to be here? Are you ready to listen? Oh, do I need to use this? I need to use it, okay. Yeah, it's a good idea, okay. Is it this way? Okay, like this. Does that work? Can you hear me? Put it on. You know, I don't use this every day, so...
Push something.
Hello. Hello, good evening, good morning. Hello. All right. I'm not too loud? Ooh. Okay. I feel like I have to speak quietly, otherwise my voice gets too strong. Okay, so good morning to you all. Isn't it wonderful to be alive? Yeah. Anybody not want to be alive? So anyway, Inge-Marie asked me if I'd like to give the message today, so I said yes. I've been on holiday this last week, so I had time to prepare. And then I thought, I looked through all my Sunday school lessons, and I found one I thought I can use, and I adapted it. So the title of this is Become Like a Child. And we can see the faces of 3 children there. Now, one of them, the girl in the middle, we're going to learn about her life today. Maybe some of you know who she is, but don't say if you do. So, Jesus, in the Bible, he said, "Truly, I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." So I'm very familiar with this passage, and I suppose most of you are, if not everyone. So, you know, we need to have this heart of a child. Otherwise we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And most of us, in fact all of us, are now adults. Yeah, we're all adults here. And we were all once children. So what does it mean to be a child? In the best sense. We're all meant to be children of God. So I would like to look at one person's life who I think embodied this heart of a child. Thérèse Martin, French girl. There are 3 pictures of her, and she was born in 1873. Forgive my French, but Alençon, I don't know how to say that. We have a French... How do you say it, Marie-Hélène? She was born in Alençon. Yeah, Alençon, okay. In 1873, she was the youngest of 9 children. But actually, 4 of them died before she was born. Including her, there were 5 girls. Marie, Pauline, Celine, Leonie, and Teresa. And her parents, these are her parents, called Zélie and Louis Martin, or Martin. He was a successful watchmaker and jeweler, and she did lace making, and she was very skilled. When they were younger, they had both wanted to dedicate their lives to God and enter a religious order, but that didn't work out. And actually, I understand that when they married, they wanted to remain celibate, but the priest said no, you know, the purpose of marriage is to have children. So they actually had 9 children. So here is I don't know if it's an idealistic picture of the family, the 5 children. This was a happy family life, and Teresa, she was surrounded by love. Her parents loved God very much, and they put God at the center of their family's life, every hour, every day. And Teresa, she was the baby, and everyone's favorite, especially her mother's. And she actually, when she was born, she was a very sickly child, and her mother thought she would die also, but she survived. And so another reason she was very loved. And but for the first year of her life, she was taken care of by a nurse because she needed, her mother having 4 other children to take care of and lace making, she needed help. So she got a lot of attention. Maybe she was spoiled a little bit because she became a very lively, mischievous and self-confident child. And her mother was not blind to her daughter's faults. And one time her mother had written that she was incredibly stubborn. When she had said no, nothing will make her change her mind. So a pretty strong character, but a character that received lots of love as a child. So you might think, well, this is what a wonderful family, but her mother contracted breast cancer. And after fighting it for 12 years, she died in 1877 when Teresa was only 4 years old. And this really affected her, and she never forgot how lost and confused she was when her mother died. But luckily for her, her older sisters, her 4 older sisters, took good care of her. And they all became like a mother to her. And they taught her about God's love, and they showed her what love is. But when her mother died, her father decided to move the family from Alençon to Lisieux. And this is a picture of one of her older sisters, Celine, and Teresa when she was 8 years of age. And this is her sister Pauline Martin. She was Teresa's second mother. Actually, she was the closest person to her. But when Teresa was 10 years old, Pauline decided to become a nun. And she missed her sister very much. And the convent that Pauline joined was very strict. It was a Carmelite convent. And in that convent, you don't go out and do good deeds. You only stay in the convent. So once you're in there, and once you commit yourself to God, then that's where you spend your life. So Teresa could only visit her sister, but she could only see her through a little window in the wall to a room set aside for visitors. And because they were so strict, they wanted to spend their time only focusing on God. But Pauline, being very close to her sister, wrote her letters. And she sent Teresa a notebook that was decorated with beautifully drawn flowers. And she told Teresa to write in this book every day all the prayers and good deeds she did. And Pauline told Teresa that every prayer and every loving act was like a little flower. If Teresa wanted these little flowers with even more prayers and love, they would keep growing if she watered them. And this would then make the world a beautiful place for everyone. And the book was a very special gift to Teresa. Sometime later, her oldest sister, Marie, also joined the convent. Actually, all of her 4 sisters would become nuns. So if your sisters want to become nuns and you're the youngest, then probably you think, this is what I should do. Yeah. So in 1887, when she was only 14 years of age, when actually you don't become a nun at 14, she wanted to become a Carmelite nun. She wanted to enter this order. And actually, that's a picture of her when she was 15, but when she was still 14, she asked her father, can I become a nun? And because she really wanted to give her life to Jesus. Her choice made her father sad at first, but soon he agreed. But unfortunately, the bishop didn't agree because Teresa was too young. And the bishop didn't want to give her permission to start such a hard life. But Teresa knew what she wanted. You know, she's a pretty stubborn person. And she knew someone who could change the bishop's mind, the Pope. And then sometime later she travelled with her father. Her father didn't know that she wanted to speak to the Pope, but you know, sometimes this is what you do as a Catholic. You want to go to the Holy Land and visit the Pope, at least to Rome. No one knew what Teresa was going to do when she entered St. Peter's Basilica with hundreds of other people to see the Pope. No one knew that this girl, who was so strong and so full of love for Jesus, could be so brave. So when she was 15, she rushed up to the Pope, knelt down in front of him and asked that she could become a nun, kind of blurted out a story. And she told him that even though she was young, she really wanted to enter the convent. Would he please give her his permission? Well, he didn't exactly say yes. He told Teresa that it is God's will she would be able to enter. A few months later, right after Christmas, the letter came. The bishop had given her permission to enter the convent. And it was the best Christmas present Teresa had ever received. So, in 1888, at the age of 16, she enters the convent. No, actually she was 15, but this is a picture of her in the convent when she was 16 years of age. And as I said, the Carmelites, they're very strict. The idea is to live a contemplative life, not to go out into society, but to stay and to serve the church through lives of prayer and study. And they, as I said, they were to live there the whole life. They pray for souls, for the church, and for the needs of the world. That was their work. So for the next 10 years, Teresa lived a quiet life in the convent. She prayed. She worked hard with the other sisters, including her real ones. Actually, as I said, all 5 of them, this is them, all became nuns. The one at the bottom, didn't become a Carmelite nun. She went to a different order. But here is a picture of them together, all as nuns. Can you imagine all your children becoming nuns or monks? Yeah. Teresa had one goal in life: to love God. She knew that God had given her the gift of life, and she knew that God had saved her through the suffering of Jesus. And what else was there to do but use every minute of every day to thank him? So I suppose, apart from praying and studying, they did work. And here's a picture of her on wash day at the convent in 1895. You can see 4 or 5 people there, but actually it was many more people. It looked like a big swimming pool, cleaning, washing clothes. And during these years, because she was, 3 of her sisters were in the same convent, you can imagine human nature being what it is that there was some kind of jealousy towards these girls, that they were kind of taking over. So even though you may be a monk or a nun, it doesn't mean to say you're holy, because if you live together, your fallen nature comes out. So sometimes some of the nuns didn't treat her so well. It was actually not such an easy life for her. But she decided that she developed something called the Little Way. You know, she was writing in her journal almost every day and contemplating about, what does it mean to love God? How can I love God? And so the Little Way was to do small deeds for God, to make others happy. For example, with every sweep of the floor or stir of the kitchen pot, she loved God. With every friendly nod to even the most difficult nun in the convent, she loved God. With every step, she loved God. This was Teresa's little way of making small daily sacrifices to give love to others. Once there was maybe it was a flower vase was broken, and she hadn't broken it, but she confessed to doing it because she wanted to, take on responsibility of others' mistakes. Of course, they didn't just wash and clean and pray and study. Actually, she wrote 8 plays while she was there, and she wrote 2 plays about Joan of Arc, and this is a photograph of her dressed up as Joan of Arc. So I suppose when we think of a convent, we might think it's a very strict, hard-working, serious place, but this also can bring a lot of joy and a lot of laughter, or move the heart through theatre, which I can relate to very much. So I said she was there for about 10 years, but at that time, when people got sick, they didn't have the medicine or the modern knowledge of how to cure illness, and she developed tuberculosis. So this is a disease that damages the lungs, and makes it hard to breathe, and makes you cough up blood. But even with all the pain that she had, she still kept a grateful heart towards God and thanked him for her life. And when she lay sick in bed, she wrote, "My mission to make God loved will begin after my death," because she knew she was going to die. "I will spend my heaven doing good on earth. I will let fall a shower of roses." So very poetic and very heartfelt. But actually, she died at the age of 24 on September the 30th, 1897, and her last words were, "My God, I love you." This journal that she had written, her sister took it, read it, and decided what's in here is something others should know about. So within 2 years of her death, her journal was published as a book called The Story of a Soul. She wrote down here all her thoughts about loving God. She wrote stories about her life. And within just a few years, millions of people had read her book. And it's been translated into at least 35 different languages. And people have learned from this book simple words about how you can love God and how to live a life with God. Teresa had been raised in love by her family and had lived her whole adult life in a convent. She worked quietly, she prayed and cared for others. She only knew a few people. She spent her days in the same simple rooms, eating the same simple food and wearing the same simple clothes. But today, millions of people know her for her words and for her life. She saw herself as the little flower of Jesus, who gave glory to God by just being her beautiful little self among all the other flowers in God's garden. Because of this beautiful analogy, the title Little Flower has remained with her. And I'd like to read some of her words. She says, "There is no surer or safer way of pleasing our Father who is in heaven than remaining ever as children." So the reason I called this presentation Become Like a Child is because I think that she herself embodied this kind of childlike heart. So our basic relationship with God is a parent-child. We're God's children, okay? So to be a child in the truest sense, what does it mean? Well, I suppose trust is one. I would say an attitude of belief. You trust in your parents. To follow. To be obedient. Innocent. An open heart to kind of receive guidance. And to follow without questioning. to have a certain sense of humility and acceptance. So if I think about myself, what's inside of me, what childlike qualities, or what is inside of you, these are the qualities that God gave us, and that because these come from God, even though God is our parent, these childlike qualities, if we want to come closer to God, we need to embody these childlike qualities. My little way is the way of spiritual childhood, the way of trust and absolute self-surrender. To surrender, to say, I give my life to you, God. I'm in your hands. Please use me as you wish. By simple obedience shall I please him best. Now this word obedience, when William Haynes was here, one thing he said is that that's the origin of the word obedience is like to listen and to follow. Yeah. I suppose in the Western world the word obedience has become a bit like a military extreme word. I don't know. It doesn't sound so friendly. But if we say you listen and are willing to follow, to take advice. Jesus, help me to simplify my life by learning what you want me to be and becoming that person. So to be a good object of God, yeah, it's like, what do you want me to do? There's a motivational speaker I've read called Louise Hay. She wrote a book called How to Heal Your Life. She's written many books. And every day she has this practice of asking God, show me what I need to know today. It's like saying, I don't know, guide me, I trust you. Yeah, show me the way so I can live in a good way. So I've got some pictures here about how does this relate to life today. So all these situations, there's a football coach, a conductor and a teacher. All of them, are in this subject position to give guidance, to give education, to teach or whatever. But actually to receive, each of them has to be a good object to receive that guidance. So if you have these childlike qualities of trust, of to listen and to obey, to believe, to be willing to follow, then the teacher, the coach, and the conductor can do amazing things because you're uniting. This is unity where you trust, and then God can work. Actually, God can work through the coach, can work through the conductor, can work through the teacher, because that's how God made things. Yes. I suppose you've heard this analogy of like we are like a clay and God is like making the pot out of clay. And to do that, we have to actually be the clay and say, mold me as you wish, shape me the way you want me to be. And in the modern world, it's not very popular to say, well, let someone else, I've got my life, let me decide. Of course, we have free will and choice, but at the same time, if you think you've been born into this earth, what is your purpose? What is God's purpose for you? Each one of us, we are the result of history. We are the result of our ancestors. What we carry, we carry things from the past. So what is our purpose? God knows. God knows who we are. God wants to shape us. Especially the younger people here who are still trying to find your way. It's like, if you have this childlike heart, show me where to go, what to do. Mold me, so I can become the person you want me to become. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful way to think. What matters are not great deeds, but great love, holiness in an everyday thing. So she did all these good deeds, small things, but most of all it was with love. You don't just do good deeds, but with love, which is pretty obvious. Miss no single opportunity of making some small sacrifice, here by smiling, there by a kindly word, always doing the smallest right and doing it all with love. Her little way teaches us to do the ordinary things of life with extraordinary love. A smile, a note of encouragement, a phone call, suffering in silence, always having a positive word, a simple, unnoticed task to brighten the life of another, and so many other simple deeds done with love. These are examples of her spirituality. The smallest action done with love is more important than great deeds done for personal glory, gratification, or simply out of obedience. Teresa teaches us that Jesus is everywhere, and God is everywhere, and it is the power of love and goodness operating within us. And I read this before. After my death, I will let fall a shower of roses. I will spend my heaven doing good upon earth. I will raise up a mighty host of little saints. My mission is to make God loved. So where is she now? Yeah. So what would you like to do in heaven when you get there? What can you do to bring love on earth? So she became a saint in 1925. And she became Saint Teresa of Lisieux. And she is one of those popular saints because of her simplicity of faith and is known as the little flower of Jesus. Become like a child. This is when she was 8 years of age. Truly, Jesus said, I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. We all want to enter the kingdom of heaven? Yes, I think everyone wants to. So actually, we need to get in touch with the child within, so that actually we can respond to God's love. Because as I understand, in the spiritual world, God, where God dwells, is this total environment of love, unconditional love. So it's like a vibration of energy. So if we want to actually be there, we have to raise our vibration of love, energy. So, and we all know this, that learning to love is the most important thing. But to be a child, because, I'm 63, and we have people at different ages here, and how many of us have kept our childlike innocence or trust or openness to God's guidance? Yeah? So whether you are 5 years of age, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75 or beyond, doesn't matter how old you are, do we still have a childlike heart? Because if we don't, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven according to Jesus. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. So I suppose to be a child is also to have a pure heart. She cut herself off from the world, of course. She lived in a convent. And we know that this is not actually God's way today. We know the family is so important. And actually the heaven is not just a place of individuals, it's a place for families. So we need to find the kind of faith she talked about, doing little deeds, of acts of kindness out of great love. I mean, we need to do this in our daily life, in our family, in our work, in our church, in our society. And so she dedicated her whole life to God. But actually, this is what we also need. Even if we are working or studying or being very busy, actually, we need to dedicate our lives to God, to nurture this relationship with God, to maintain this childlike heart, so that so we can receive this love and feel this love and give this love back. Because we know that the kingdom of heaven is within you. Yes, is here within your heart. So this is a picture actually of her family, if they had all lived or all grown up and were all adults. Maybe they're like this in spirit world now, I don't know. But oh, there are just five girls and then her parents. And I said her mother died when she was only 4, so this picture would have been impossible. And you can see Teresa up there. So that's where I'd like to end. I'd like to thank you, and thank you very much. Shall I offer a prayer? Good morning, Heavenly Father. Thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for reminding us that we are your children, and to come closer to you, we need always to have this childlike heart, to trust you, to be open to receive your guidance, and that so you can be part of all that we do, and that each day that we can do our very best to practice the heart of living for others, of doing good deeds, of offering a smile, a helping hand, a positive word, encouraging words, anything we can do every day that we can embody your heart of love, so that we can make you happy and that we can bring joy to this world. I want to thank you for this time here, and I offer this prayer, and I report this in my name, Tim Atkinson of a Blessed Central Family, Arju. Thank you very much.